The UN is calling for a global ceasefire and is warning that violence within the home is now on the rise. In South Africa, authorities say that there were nearly 90,000 reports of domestic violence against women in the first week of the COVID-19 lockdown. Lebanon and Malaysia have seen the number of calls for help double, and in China, they've tripled. But experts say this isn't a new crisis, but the lockdown is making an existing problem even worse.
Victims and survivors talking about abusers doing things like not allowing them to leave even for essential tasks such as grocery shopping or picking up medications, or threatening to take their insurance card so they can't get health services. And what's really important there to be aware of is how similar that dynamic is to other things that we've seen in domestic violence. And in that way, it's not something unique about the coronavirus here. It's another opportunity that people are taking advantage of to exert power and control over victims and survivors.
And while most of us are feeling helpless and out of control, abusers are taking advantage of this vulnerability to assert even more power and control.
Agencies serving victims and survivors, as well as victims and survivors themselves, are facing difficulty in some cases making outreach for help. So, for example, if you're in a very small home where an abuser might overhear a phone call asking for help or asking for support, and you don't have a way to leave the house to make that phone call, that makes the situation dangerous for survivors.
How are shelters managing to stay open so that they can offer a place for women to go to?
Some communities are trying to take advantage of partnerships with hotels to try to find safe spaces for women. But I think it's important to know that for women, especially in rural areas, there might not be shelter options. When we look at things like the economic downturn that we're watching unfold, and consider what's going to happen to some of these non-governmental organizations as demand for services continues, but things like donations go down, I think it's incredibly important that we all maintain attention to the problem of domestic violence going forward.
Some governments have promised to address the problem as part of their national coronavirus response efforts. But the fear is that when the pandemic ends, the violence won't, and agencies say they'll need extra resources to combat the problem. Ayhan, TRT World, Washington.